Die, Untermensch.
A science experiment to create the most marketable, ultimate superhero instead gave us a megalomaniac with absolutely no sense of empathy. Those familiar with the Boys franchise know that the TV show did a great job portraying all of Homelander's relationships, whether it be his equal as a Nazi or his doppelganger desperately trying to seduce him. This evil parody of Superman had no real sense of love or relationships, which made his whole dating history more concerning. In this marvelous video, we're going to explore everyone who is related to the the world's greatest superhero. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you, and let's begin.
I'm stronger. I'm smarter. I'm better. I am better!
Homelander, John, the man of the hour. Homelander, also known as John, looks like your typical God-loving patriot at first glance, but something sinister lies under that facade. Homelander was created as the genetic progeny of Soldier Boy and an unknown egg donor. Even before he was born, Homelander experimented with Compound V, which gave him superpowers. He was basically raised in the lab at Vought International, a multi-billion-dollar superhero conglomerate. Homelander was overseen by the scientist Jonah Vogelbaum, who put the young boy through unimaginable torture in order to test the limits of his powers. Little John was extensively brainwashed until he became a living, breathing embodiment of American nationalism. All of this obviously shaped his personality in a morbid way. Not only was he depressed from living in isolation for so long, but the lack of real human love led him to become sociopathic. Apart from the comics and the animated spin-off show The Boys Presents Diabolical, Homelander was made the leader of the Seven. The Seven is Vought International's premier superhero league. Keep in mind that Homelander's powers are nearly the exact same as Superman's, including the deadly heat vision. His public debut was crashed by Black Noir, the Seven's superpower ninja. Out of one of many missions, Homelander and Black Noir were meant to rescue hostages held by a band of terrorists at a chemical plant. Homelander arrived first and used his powers messily, which ended up killing not only the terrorists, but one of the hostages. When favor turned against him, he killed them all in his maniacal rage. Black Noir arrives on the scene, but Homelander is afraid the newbie superhero will snitch on him and try to kill him as well. This is much tamer than the other countless despicable things the patriotic superhero has done. Clone. In the comics, Black Noir was revealed to be a direct clone of Homelander. He was created as a backup, Plan B soup, in case Homelander got out of control and shirked his duties. Beneath Black Noir's calm exterior was a man possibly more degenerated than his clone. No one thought that was possible, so if the borderline psychotic Homelander ever went rogue, Vought International had a replacement handy. However, it was soon apparent that Black Noir couldn't step up to Homelander's curated image and reputation. This essentially meant that he was unable to fulfill the one purpose he was made for. This drove him into madness, which he directed into tearing down Homelander's reputation by framing him for grave crimes. When Homelander essentially saw himself doing all these horrible things, he lost the last drop of sanity he clung to. In a way, Black Noir's scheme was successful because Homelander tried to usurp the US government. When the world's greatest supe finally confronted his evil clone, he was seemingly killed. But the military stepped in and bombarded him with gunfire and tank explosions until Billy Butcher hacked away at his skull with a crowbar and finally killed him. But when the masked super ninja was first exposed for the smear campaign he had run on Homelander's name, Black Noir boasted about his actions. Fodder. Soldier Boy. Before Homelander ever existed on this earth, the mantle of the world's greatest supe was held by Soldier Boy, aka Benjamin. During the Second World War, Benjamin enlisted in the US Army in an attempt to impress his pop. He also volunteered, among many others, to become a human subject for Vaught's trial runs of Compound V under the direction of the scientist Frederick Vought. This alchemical substance was used to transform ordinary humans into superheroes. Even after becoming the strongest man alive, Soldier Boy realized that his father remained disappointed in him. Nothing could impress his old man, who accused Soldier Boy of cheating as a real man, who would have indeed worked towards becoming so strong. After turning him into a superhero, Vought couldn't let his most valuable asset stand in the way of danger, so they never really let Soldier Boy fight in the war. In a way of danger, he became the leader of a superhero group named Payback. He fought alongside Crimson Countess, Mindstorm, Swanto, Gunpowder, and a few others. In the 80s, Jonah Vogelbaum invited Soldier Boy to donate his genetic material so it could be studied in the labs. But the superhero was kept in the dark about what his seed was actually used for to create Homelander. In the following years, there were multiple reports of Soldier Boy acting out, being unnecessarily violent as a masked vigilante. During a botched mission in Nicaragua, his own team betrayed him, and Soldier Boy was captured by the Soviets, who tortured him for years. He was eventually rescued by the boys who broke into the facility and found him barely sane. As far as Soldier Boy's relationship with his son goes, he is as harsh as Homelander as his father once was. At the end of Season 3, we saw Homelander open his heart out and suggested that they could possibly join forces. Even with the Soup bawling his eyes out, voicing his need for a paternal figure in his life, Soldier Boy called him a disappointment to his face. Just as his father had done, this came from the fact that underneath his shiny cool superhero exterior, Soldier Boy was an insecure man who still lived in the shadow of his father's disapproval. With his self-loathing, he couldn't help but look down at his own sniveling son and belittle him. Like father, like son, the two strongest Soups desperately covered up their most fragile ego with the airs of hyper-masculinity.
What shall we say? A very special relationship. Complicated, intimate.
Lovers and physical relationships. Meline was introduced as Vought's senior vice president for hero management. This meant that she closely worked with the Seven and ensured they reached maximum profitability for the company. As a top executive for this multi-billion-dollar conglomerate, Meline was a mighty woman. She seemed to have a soft spot for Homelander, but this is where things get weird. Not only were they lovers, but she also posed as a mother figure to him. Anyone familiar with the show is aware of Homelander's mother complex and his taste for milk. It is said that this is how Meline kept Homelander subdued by making him drink her breast milk. Due to Madeline's position of power, she was in charge of their brief yet bizarre relationship. Homelander allowed Meline to push him around. Soon, Homelander discovered that she had been working against him all along. She knew where Becca Butcher had disappeared with her child. When held hostage by Billy Butcher, Homelander proceeded to interrogate his former lover. He asked if she truly ever cared about him, and he kissed her one last time. Then his heat vision melted through her eyes into her skull. Her death was gentle and tender even while Homelander harbored this betrayal.
Hey, we're gonna go, okay? Come on.
Who's that?
Becca Butcher. To clarify, Becca is Billy Butcher's wife and mother to Ryan. Her connection to Homelander was much more disturbing and very non-consensual. She worked as the senior director of digital marketing at Vought International for several years before her mysterious disappearance. Her husband, Billy Butcher, believed her to be dead and totally despised Homelander for violating her. Her tragedy began during a work Christmas party when she introduced her husband, Billy, to Homelander. A few days later, Homelander cornered Becca in a room alone and did the unimaginable. Distraught, Becca rushed to Vought for help, where it was confirmed that she was pregnant with Homelander's child. After she gave birth, which nearly killed her, Becca was shut away in a secret facility by Meline's and Jonah Vogelbaum. At the same time, everyone else believed that she was dead. The facility run by Dr. Park was where Becca secretly raised her illegitimate child for 8 years. After mercilessly killing Meline's, Homelander began visiting his son, Ryan, much to Becca's horror. For you see, she wished to raise her son in a typical healthy environment, while Homelander wanted him to practice his inherited powers. Billy was reunited with his wife after all these years, but things would never be the same between them. At the crux of it, Billy saw Ryan as an asset for Vought and not as a child who never asked to be brought into this world. Queen Maeve. Maggie Shaw, better known as Queen Maeve, was the second most powerful member of the Seven and an idealistic inspiration for little girls everywhere. One look at her tells us that she's meant to be a parody of Wonder Woman, the Amazonian warrior princess. Maggie was asked to become the ultimate role model for the youth, but stepping into this image, which was carefully curated by Vought, meant she was forced to forego some of her proper morals. After working this way for a while, she became cynical and jaded. In Season 1 of The Boys, it was revealed that Homelander and Maggie dated in the past. Queen Maeve was perhaps Homelander's first true love, and as much as he's capable of loving anyone, he never seems human enough. While Homelander kept reminiscing about their time together, Maeve spoke about this wearily. She has always loathed Homelander and even began working with Butcher in Season 3 to bring down the unstable megalomaniac. Queen Maeve was revealed to be bisexual. We see her seek comfort in her ex Elena, but this fact could have been damning for her public image in Vought. She wished to rekindle her relationship with Elena, but had tread carefully in fear of Homelander finding out. When the two were on a talk show, Homelander outed Maeve as a lesbian after he overheard her and Elena talking on the phone. In the end, the boys helped Queen Maeve escape the chaos, albeit she loses her powers after her fierce fight with Soldier Boy. The world thought her to be dead, but she had reunited with her lover Elena, and the two lived away from prying eyes. Stormfront, also known as Clara Risinger. Stormfront took the place of Translucent as one of the seven. She was said to be married to Frederick Vought, who injected her with Compound V, turning her into a soup. Near the end of the Second World War, Clara moved to the United States. In recent decades, Clara gained a large social media following for her extraordinary powers and bold online personality. She took up the alias of Stormfront on account of her electrokinesis, aka plasma manipulation, and lightning creation abilities. Vought pushed her to join the Seven after witnessing her sensationalizing her superhero persona online. For their Dawn of the Seven film, Vought was shamelessly plugging their newest manufactured feminist image. Soon, the super nightmare couple came into existence. Homelander and Stormfront were attracted to each other's ruthlessness and ease, which they killed people. Stormfront idolized Homelander and began a primarily physical relationship with him. They only had what could be described as a sadomasochistic intercourse in the strangest settings, mostly mid-air. Apart from their passionate relationship, Stormfront was revealed to be a Nazi. She was part of the Nazi Party back in the 30s and wished to spread this ideology in the present day as well. As a white supremacist, Stormfront relished killing people who weren't white or pure Aryan, as she put it. Doppelganger. The sociopathic super found a way to fulfill his most perverse fantasies through Doppelganger. As a minor hero, his powers were limited to being able to shapeshift into anyone he wished. He didn't even need to touch that person in order to do so. He had to visualize them through his memory. Apart from this incredible power, he didn't possess superhuman strength or durability. Doppelganger and Homelander made a sick deal where the shape-shifting man turned into Madeline shortly after Homelander had killed the real Madeline. This was, of course, all for the benefit of Homelander's self-centered sexual fantasies, which he got to fulfill with Doppelganger. However, one night, things took a turn when Doppelganger shapeshifted into Madeline and tried to seduce Homelander like he usually did. The soup seemed really out of it. Homelander claimed that he didn't need anyone else to love him, which prompted Doppelganger to shapeshift into the maniacal soup. He then tried to touch Homelander, but got his neck snapped in the other direction instead. Public relationships. Starlight. Annie January, aka Starlight, was known as the Defender of Des Moines. Annie's parents planned to turn her into a soup while raising her in a hyper-religious home in the Midwest. If she were to ask about the origins of her powers, her parents planned to tell her that it was God who blessed her with her abilities. Speaking of, she possesses the powers of electricity conversion and photokinesis. She could easily turn accumulated energy into blasts of the brightest light, hence her name. Her visit to New York and meeting the Seven for the first time proved why one should never meet their heroes. Excited to be a part of the team, Starlight held hope for the world and truly sought to make it a better place. But on her first day, the Deep exaggerated his position of power and manipulated Starlight into doing something she didn't want to. She was left violated and quickly grew resentful towards the way the Seven functioned. She realized that no one at Vought International considered actually helping people. Starlight was forced to wear costumes that deliberately over-sexualized her as a female superhero. But not all was forsaken as Starlight found herself in a tender relationship with Huey. Her wholesome and somewhat optimistic demeanor was also well received by the general public, which made her a popular member of the Seven. In Season 3, she was made co-captain of the Seven alongside Homelander. But Annie was no fool. She knew the danger her life would be in if Homelander felt threatened by her increasing likability. She would usually go along with his shenanigans, but Homelander took it too far when he publicly announced they were in a relationship. This was all a ploy to improve his own deteriorating image by associating himself with a kind and sweet Annie of the Seven. He also wished to force his control over her, at least when they were seen in public together. By the end, Starlight was done with the corrupted heroes of Vought. She ditched her costume and, as Annie January, officially became a team member of the boys.
Who are you?
My name is
Ryan.
Child, Ryan Butcher. Lastly, we have Homelander's kid Ryan. He was raised by his mom, Becca Butcher, as a sweet and respectful little boy. Fully knowing the effects of Homelander's upbringing had on him, Becca went in the opposite direction with her parenting and was actually a great mom. Given the circumstances of Ryan's birth, everything seemed relatively normal until Homelander was informed of their existence. When Homelander introduced himself as Ryan's father, the kid was overwhelmed, and we saw his inherited powers nearly manifest, which would have been messy. Homelander forced his way back into Becca's life and into his son's life. As the father and son duo played catch in the yard, Homelander claimed that Ryan should use his powers to become an expert in catch. Many such ramblings led Ryan to be super weirded out by his dad, who popped into his life out of nowhere. Becca was fiercely protective of her son, but Homelander managed to squeeze in a lesson or two about being a superhero. He tried to teach Ryan how to fly by pushing him off the roof of the house. As things grew more tense, Stormfront tried to intervene and called Ryan away from his mom. She then proceeded to strangle Becca while Billy and Ryan pleaded with the evil Soup to let her go. Seeing his mother in danger, Ryan's heat vision finally blasted out and charred off all of Stormfront's limbs, much to his mother's fear and father's twisted satisfaction. Ryan was indeed superhuman and perhaps held untapped potential that would make him the strongest yet. Marvelous verdict. So there you have it, folks, all the people who can be considered a part of Homelander's family tree. Clearly, Homelander is a man who is constantly at war with himself, oscillating between hardcore self-loathing and being very full of himself. That being said, we don't think Homelander was meant to be a redeemable character. Case in point, look at how he deals with people he apparently loves and cares for. They either exist as a means to his selfish pleasure, to carry forward his twisted legacy, or to be killed. Is John truly capable of love? Let us know in the comments down below. If you like the content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.